Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to show you a very interesting and rather unique revolver, and this is the M1895 Nagant revolver. Now this is a very famous and prolific revolver that was used by Russia from about 1895 all the way until 1945. But even after World War II, this continued to be used by many countries and a long list of wars and conflicts, making this probably one of the most prolific and commonly used military handguns or revolvers of all time. Now, like I said, it's a Russian service pistol, but it was actually designed in Belgium in around 1886 by two brothers, Emil and Leon Nagant. Now, if you've heard the name Nagant, that's for good reason. You know the Mosin Nagants that we all love, the military, Soviet, pre-Soviet, all the way up through many of the combat countries, rifle that shoots 7.62 by 54R. Yeah, that rifle. Well, Leon Nagant was one of the main inventors of the Mosin, so this is the same exact family right here, the two brothers, the Nagant brothers. So they designed this around 1886. By 1895, these were in production for the Russians. Basically what we have here is, this example is a single action and double action revolver. It holds 7 rounds, which makes it rather unique. That's substantially more than the normal 5 or 6 round revolvers that many of us are familiar with. It's not a huge gun, but it's not exactly a mouse gun or a snub nose either. It weighs in at about 1.8 pounds. The overall length is 10.5 inches with a 4.5 inch barrel. Take another look at it from this side here. It feels pretty good in the hand, actually. It's rather balanced, feels rather lightweight, certainly lighter than many of the larger full-size pistols that were used during this era. So, a little more history about this gun, and then we'll get into some of the specifics, including what makes this gun so unique and some of the curiosities about it and why people like this revolver so much, and some of the reasons why people don't like it. So, this gun was made for basically 50 years, from 1895 all the way until 1945. And during that period of time, it served during a vast number of wars and conflicts. And even after World War II, it was used by many countries on basically every continent of the world. In fact, it was probably used by over 100 countries. The list is too long to read, but you guys can look that up if you want on the internet. But I would note, one thing that's interesting is the United States actually used some of these during World War II. So how did that happen? Well, basically, United States allies with Russia, the enemy's Germany, right? Germany captured a bunch of these from Russia. The Germans and Russians were constantly capturing each other's guns in World War II. So, and then the United States captured some of these then from the Germans, and they ended up actually in some select infantry units of the United States Army, and they actually used these to fight back against the Germans with. So the United States is actually one of the users of these that used them in wartime, which is kind of a unique piece of trivia, if you will, that not a lot of people know. So I thought I'd share that with you. So yeah, these guns were prolific. I mean, a couple million of them made for 50 years. Most of them were made at either the Tula or the Izhevsk factories in Russia. The specific example, we'll go into the markings a little later, is Tula, and it bears the Tula star on the side panel here. It's always hard on these black framed guns with the lights to get it to focus, but there we go, we can see the Tula star. So this being a Tula example. Now, as far as I said, this was used in a lot of wars, including the Boxer Rebellion, the Russo-Japanese War, World War I, Russian Revolution of 1917, otherwise known as the Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian Civil War, the Polish-Soviet War, the Spanish Civil War, the Winter War with Finland, World War II, Chinese Civil War, the Hukbalahap Rebellion. Don't know if I said that right. Sorry, guys. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Tuareg Rebellion, which I would note was from 1990 to 1995. So pushing the 21st century here, modern warfare, these were still actually being used in military service, fighting in war. Alright, so enough about the history and the use of the gun. Let's get into some of the details. So as we can see, this has a blued finish, more of a military bluing, a little bit of gloss to it, and I've got some light shining on it, right now, but more of a matte blue color. The fit and finish of the gun is actually very nice. Now, there's different eras of these guns, okay? And when they started off, they would have some models that were in just a single action, and they also had some that were single double action like this. Now look, in about 1918, they did away with the single action only models, and you're not gonna probably find one today very easily. There's a few out there, but not many, and the reason being they only made them for the first, half of the production years, but also almost all of them that were single action were later Arsenal refurbished and upgraded to the single double action feature. So if you have a single action only, you've got an old one, you've got a rare collectible, enjoy it. But for the most part, 99% of them that you're going to encounter or possibly purchase are going to be just like this one, single double action. Now when we cock the hammer back, the single action pull is actually rather light and just fine. Now, I'm going to note one thing real quick, guys. This does have an exposed hammer with some nice texturing, checkering on the back. Makes a nice, easy grip with your thumb. But it does have the firing pin connected to the hammer. There's no transfer bar. And you probably could get away with dry firing this here and there by accident, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not a good idea to fire one of these firing pin affixed to the hammer type guns, and with this gun being so old, this gun's well over 90 years old I have here. I'm not going to risk breaking that old part, which could be, a little bit hard to replace, and I'd rather just keep the gun as original as I can, right? So you're going to see me trying to show you how the trigger works the best I can, with me keeping my thumb on the trigger because I don't want to ruin this gun. And I love snap caps. You'll see me use them in a lot of videos, but I don't have any snap caps for this gun. So single action and then double action. So it's performing two actions. It's both cocking the hammer and it's also rotating the cylinder. Let's watch this again. But it's actually almost performing three actions, and this is part of what makes this gun so unique. Now, most revolvers, when you pull the hammer back, whether it's via the trigger or just the hammer, you see the cylinder rotates to put the next round in line to feed into the barrel. So watch it rotate here. Now it does one more thing. We're going to notice there's going to be a space between the cylinder and the barrel. See the space right there? There's a little space. This is called cylinder gap, and all revolvers have cylinder gap. Well, most of them, and I'm going to show you in a second why not. And what that means is even after the hammer's cocked and it's ready to fire, there's still a little bit of a space in between the barrel and the cylinder. And some of the really tight tolerance hand-fitted revolvers like Korth and brands like that and Manhurin get it very, very close, but they still have a gap. Other revolvers can have a gap that's at least 1/4 of a millimeter or sometimes more. So basically when you shoot, some of the gases propel the projectile, the bullet, out of the barrel, and some of the gases escape in a 360-degree pattern and end up coming out of the sides of the frame of the gun, right? Well, that means two things. First of all, when you're shooting a revolver, you have to have a revolver grip on the gun, right? Okay? If you hold it like a semi-auto with the thumbs forward position, at the very least it's going to hurt and burn you. And at the very worst, it could damage your finger or even possibly amputate it. So you never want to get your finger near most revolvers like this because gases are coming out at a high temperature and with a lot of force. Also, you're losing a little bit of that powder charge, a little bit of the steam, if you will, that's going to propel this bullet. So you lose a little bit of power. And overall, it's going to reduce the foot per second and the overall foot-pound of torque that's going to interact with your target. In other words, you're going to reduce your terminal ballistics by a little bit. And that's okay with most revolvers. And revolvers are still usually plenty powerful. But this does all happen when I'm explaining here. So, when the Nagant brothers got together to design this gun, they designed it to chamber the 7.62 by 38R, otherwise known as the 7.62 Nagant, or sometimes even the 30 Nagant. Now, this is a rather unique round. I'm going to show you what it looks like in a second. But the round wasn't necessarily the fastest round out there, and with it being a 30 caliber or 7.62 millimeter, not the biggest round. So they needed all of the power they could get to send that bullet out of the barrel. And this is where this gun ends up with this unique design, where when you cock the hammer, not only does the cylinder rotate to get the next round ready to fire, but we're going to watch that gap disappear. Because the cylinder indeed moves forward in the action, and it actually creates what's called a gas seal between the cylinder and the barrel. Now, what I just said with the other revolvers goes out the window. We're no longer losing excess gases, we're not losing the velocity, and the added bonus is the safety of the shooter. If someone were to have their thumb or part of their hand or body part next to it, they're not going to get those hot and dangerous gases coming out. So this is one of the few exceptions you'll find where you could, I don't know if you want to or not, but you could fire this in a thumbs forward position and you're going to get all your velocity. Here's why we need the velocity. This gun shoots at about, and with this cartridge that was designed for this gun, at about 891 foot per second, the way it is right here in its final design. They found during their initial testing they were actually able to gain about 150 foot per second of velocity by having this gas seal. So imagine the difference between the way the gun is now, 891, you'd be at like 740 foot per second. So that's a drastic increase in pressure and speed of the bullet, terminal ballistics, right? It's also noted that the Nagant brothers did this design to add to the safety, because you're issuing this to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and ultimately 2 million people throughout its life. Some are trained better than others, some had very little training, so it did make the revolver a little bit safer to shoot, right? And gave shooters different shooting positions. So that's what makes this gun kind of so unique. Now, this wasn't what the Nagant brothers had planned in 1886, but the cool little consequence of their invention, now this is a consequence that's a benefit, is this is one of the few revolvers that could indeed have the barrel threaded and it could be suppressed. Now normally you can't suppress a revolver, because if you do, the back pressure you're going to make from the can on the end is just going to push more pressure out of this gap, and it's still going to be really loud, right? So this can actually be suppressed. Some people have done that since then just for fun. Some people say the KGB ran around with suppressed versions of these. That may be true. I don't know. With the KGB stories, they're all fun to tell, but a lot of times they're more mythical in lore and not always founded in fact. But let's just say reportedly the KGB and others, clandestine troops and whatnot, did suppress these in the old country, but I think it's more of a thing Americans do just for fun. So, yep, it's a revolver that you can suppress. It's gas sealed. It moves forward and keeps the excess gases from escaping. So, pretty cool, right? Now, they were manufactured for 50 years. This specific example was made in 1926. We see the markings there, CC, CP. Can't pronounce the next two words. And 1928. I'm sorry, I think I said 26. This one's 28. I also have a 1926, guys. And we'll also see right below it that square with the line through it. That's an Arsenal refurbishment mark that probably looks familiar if you have a Russian Mosin or SKS and many other Russian guns. So this gun was Arsenal refurbished at possibly, a Russian or a Soviet Russian arsenal. I would note, after refurbishment, this gun has seen probably very little use, as in is excellent condition. We're going to notice this has the correct for era wood side panels, as well as wood rear back strap. Now, as time went on, especially when we got into like World War II production dates, this was switched over to an early type polymer. They're both fine. It's just for this era, late 1920s, this does have the correct original wood. Sometimes you'll see them, the old guns that were refurbished with the plastic. I even have one where, the 1926 I have, where it's wood on the side panels and a plastic back strap. That's fine. It's just what the Arsenal was upgrading these, if you will, when they were sent in for refurbishment. We'll notice the cylinder moves nice and freely. You can notice a positive click at each position. Now, to load this gun, you can take the cylinder out for cleaning, and you basically twist this rod, pull it out. I'm not going to take it apart right now, but basically the way this works is one round in at a time. Put your round in, click it over to the next one, put the next one in. Same thing when it comes time to reload. So this was not a real fast reloader. You're not going to be using speed strips or anything like that for this gun, right? We'll notice, like many old Russian and military surplus guns, we're going to see lots of proof marks on the sides of this. Little markings that I'm not exactly sure what all of them mean. Some of them you can look up. Some of them are actually still unknown to this day. Basically acceptance marks, firing marks, nitro proofs, you know, things like that. We're going to see the Tula Star again back there. I would note that there are serial numbers on some of the major components of this gun. We have it here on the actual frame in front of the cylinder. We're also going to find a serial number on the trigger guard area. Well, the last 3 digits of the serial number anyways. And serial numbers in a couple other places too. So, pretty standard for a Milsurp. Like I said, the bluing's actually nice on this. More of a matte bluing. I think the gun's aesthetically appeasing, you know, appealing. It has a very nice, old, classic, rugged look to it, but it's kind of pretty too. And I like the wood. It just seems right for such an old, classic design, right? I also like the polymer gripped ones too. That's what makes Milsurp collecting suck so bad, because you want all the different versions of it, but you guys know what I mean. But I'm happy with this one. We'll notice the sights are rudimentary at best. Probably a lot of point shooting going on with this. We have in the rear just a notch that is very small and shallow. See if the camera will pick that up a little bit. Right there, just a notch. We'll also notice a trough in the top of the frame, so you can see through your notch down the trough into a single bladed front sight. Now, the blade front sight can be drifted left or right for your windage. The rear sight's obviously fixed because it's not really a separate sight. There's no dovetail. It's literally just cut out as part of the actual frame of the revolver, right? Take a peek here. I'm just looking at it real quick here, guys. Think if there's anything else interesting to talk about. I would note a couple other things. This does have a lanyard loop. Well, what's that for? Well, I don't know if I would want it that way or not, but part of the manual of arms in Russia was to actually affix a lanyard to this, and the lanyard would later on be attached to your belt so that you could shoot the pistol, but if you dropped it, it would be retained by the soldier. And I actually have a lanyard right here. This is an original surplus Russian produced lanyard. You can see you have a leather strap that's going to go through your belt or other gear that the soldier's wearing. There's a clip on the end, and we are going to simply clip this into this lanyard loop on the bottom of the pistol. It's plenty long enough where the shooter could still have it attached to their body down here at the waist. I'm just holding it down to my waist right now, and still bring it forward and still have a decent amount of slack left. So you can see right here that there's plenty of room to move the pistol all around. But if you were to drop it, it would probably hit the ground, but you're not going to lose it. And sometimes in war, running occurs and you have to panic and run, or you need to drop your revolver to go to your rifle, right? So I can actually understand why, for times of war and military service, why this is very useful to have. So we have a lanyard. These were also issued with a holster, and this is a genuine Russian military surplus holster. Okay. Not sure why this twine's on here. It came on it when I bought it. I'll probably just cut it off, to be honest. So this is a full flap holster, meaning it covers the whole entire gun. This is a pigskin pattern. Looks a lot like a football, right? Same pigskin texture. This is actually a faux or fake pigskin, and I'm not exactly sure when they switched over to this, but this certainly was used by the times of World War II and later. The very earliest holsters were solid leather, but this is a very famous pattern. If you guys are familiar with when you bought your M9130 Mosin, it came with the ammo pouches, same exact construction, where there's leather along the edges and the fake pigskin with a heavy canvas cotton type backing. Your SKSs had ammo pouches like this, and other Russian guns. If you guys are into milsurps, you probably recognize this. I think it looks pretty cool, actually, and it has a really nice texture. We have leather belt loops to go on the belt. We open it up here, and this is original Russian. It has all of the Russian markings written in Cyrillic that I can't read. We also have a spot for the ammunition. I'm going to show you what the ammo looks like in 1 second and why that's part of the famous gas sealing technology. But here's some original Russian vintage military surplus ammo packaged in 14 count boxes. So the revolver holds 7, so 14 would give you enough for 2 reloads in these small little convenient packages. And this is original stuff, guys, so this is exactly what a Russian soldier would have been issued and would have used. And you'll notice there's a handy little leather pouch, and this is real leather, in the front that can hold your box of ammunition, right? So, pretty cool. Take your ammo out with you, have it in the holster, put more in your pockets, whatever you needed to do. We also have a loop here, 2 loops that retain your cleaning rod, so you always have the cleaning rod with you. And you also have a cool tool that was issued, a wood-handled screwdriver. And basically, to take this revolver apart, to take the side panels off, the grips off, etc., it's all done with a flat blade screwdriver. Okay? You can take off this loading lever, this cylinder lever here. So, you've got the tool you need to disassemble. You've got the lanyard to keep you from losing your revolver, right? Your holster to protect the revolver. And as we can see here, it fits in there. It completely covers it. There's a leather strap that would come up to this stud and protect this from not only dirt and grime and wear and tear, but also from rain. It's a complete coverage. So, nice, right? Clean the pistol on the go, always a good thing. Work on it. Kind of an all-in-one kit right here. Box of ammo in here. I wish they had holsters like this nowadays for our modern guns, don't you guys? That'd be pretty cool. Especially the wood-handled screwdriver. You know I'm not just into guns, guys. I'm a huge tool buff. And when I get a tool with my gun holster, oh yeah, pretty cool, right? Alright, now for the ammunition. Couple things. First and foremost, this ammo is rather anemic. Would I stand in front of one of them? No, of course not. Was this somewhat effective in war? Yes, but definitely did not have the power of the US M1911, for example. Definitely didn't have the power of the Tokarev, which was kind of the next round and gun that was used after this with the 7.62 by 25. Completely blew this out of the water, right? So, look. Was it a somewhat effective service caliber? Yes, it was used in many wars by many countries. Is it the most powerful cartridge? Heck no, not even close. So we're talking 7.62 millimeters or 30 cal, cruising in there less than 900 foot per second, and that's even including the advantage you get by sealing the gas and getting rid of the gap. Well, sealing the gap, very important, like we said earlier. Well, it does it by moving the cylinder forward, but here's another reason why it actually seals. This cartridge and this bullet and case design is very unique. So here is a 7.62 by 38R loaded cartridge. And you're thinking, well, no, it's not, man. This is just the brass, right? No. One of the only rounds you're ever going to see where the completely loaded round looks like a piece of brass until we flip it over here. And we are actually going to see a recessed copper-plated bullet in there. So we have our primer, center fire round, okay? We have our case. There's powder in here, guys. But the bullet is set, recessed in, and you would notice there's a slight taper on the top that's actually holding the bullet in there. So when the cylinder pushes forward, right, we don't have a bullet like we normally would, because a bullet starts to taper, right? That taper would allow some gas to come out. So the taper of the bullet is not going to affect this, because as we pressurize this case and send pressure into the barrel, it's going to expand this brass out, and it's already going to be completely sealed before the bullet starts to exit the brass and then engage the rifle into the barrel and propel itself out. So I'm not an ammo genius. I hope I explained that in simple terms for you guys, because I'm kind of simple with my knowledge with this, but that's basically what happens. It's recessed with a slight taper. This has already expanded, completely filled any side-to-side gap. The moving forward of the cylinder has gotten rid of any front-to-front gap. So we're completely sealed, guys. There's virtually zero, and actually none, gas that comes out of the side of this. You can put your thumb next to this. You can suppress this, and it gains up to 150 foot per second with this design over their original design in the 1880s. So yeah, Nagant revolver ammo, one of a kind, right? And the R 7.62x38R means this is a rimmed cartridge. Not a huge rim on it, but it's definitely, got a rim. It's larger in the back here at the case head than it is on the sidewall. So, yeah. Nice little 30 cal rounds. They look really long, but don't let it fool you. There's not a whole lot of powder in this, because we have a whole bullet in here, and we even have space at the end. So, if you looked at this like a regular cartridge, it would have a small little case, probably about the size of a 25, to be honest. Maybe a 32 at the most. So, rather anemic little round. Probably nothing I would want to use for self-defense for many reasons, including this weak caliber, but these guns are still so fun to shoot, guys. Very little recoil, hardly any at all. You're holding a piece of history, provenance, many wars. Over 100 countries used it. These used to be brought into the country forever for like 99 bucks, and they came with the holster and the screwdriver and all of it. I never really remember them coming in with lanyards. I bought this separately, actually fairly recently, but you get this whole package for 99 bucks. Now with all milsurps, the importation dried up. They've gone in price, up in price. They're significantly more than that today. $300 to $400 for standard non-rare models, and the sky's the limit depending how rare you want them to get, like any collectible gun. So yeah, just a little bit with the Nagant revolver. Nice wood and blue design. I almost forgot to mention earlier, guys, there is some wood here on the front strap as well. The wood is checkered nicely. The gun feels very comfortable in the hand, the grip being very thin. The texturing of the wood, or if you have the polymer, same difference, provides a nice grip. The gun does not feel excessively heavy whatsoever, and the single action trigger pull is really not bad. Just remember, don't dry fire these, guys. It's not a good idea. This surplus ammo can still be purchased. It's getting a little harder to find, but you can still buy this. It does have the corrosive primer, so you're going to want to clean according to how you would corrosive ammo, because this is a blued gun. It can and will rust if you don't clean it after firing your corrosively primed ammo. Companies such as PPU, Cellular, and Bellot, and others make modern, non-corrosively primed, brass-cased 7.62x38R ammo. It's out there, guys. It doesn't cost a fortune. I tend to like to shoot the modern ammo when I can, and I kind of just like to save this stuff because it's kind of history, collectible. Not collectible like it's worth a fortune, but collectible like cool, like it's just history, right? So, as you guys already know, I love old milsurps due to their story they tell, the history behind them, and the quality of machining that was done 90 years ago in this case that you're not really going to find today unless you buy a gun that is very, very expensive. So yeah, 1895, produced all the way till 1945, a couple million of them. Prolific gun. Probably not the most powerful gun you're ever going to meet. Actually, one of the weaker ones. But it is a pleasure to shoot, and there's a lot of story and history and heritage behind these, including use by the United States in World War II. Well, I've enjoyed talking about this gun with you guys. If you have any questions, leave them down in the description. Share your stories. I tried to include a pretty thorough overview. I probably missed something. Sorry about that. I don't have any shooting on this video, but I'll get out to the range soon and shoot this and give you guys a short shooting video, just so you can see what it shoots like. And remember, guys, if you have a little extra, go check out my Patreon. I spend money on this channel, and I just do it for fun, but I only have so much of my own money I can spend, and I'm trying to put out a lot of videos for you guys. Alright, hopefully you guys liked the Nagant Revolver, and we'll get some more milsurps out soon for you guys. Alright, thanks for watching, and have a good one.